Another episode on my YouTube channel. Today I'm here with Ryan. Ryan, what are we going to talk about today?
We're here to speak about Kiro Web, one of the big new announcements from re:Invent that's started to get open up to the wide audience.
That sounds really interesting. Kiro Web. I think I had a video on that a little bit earlier and I called it Kiro Autonomous Agent. But these days we're talking about this in the beginning of May 2026. This is being renamed to be Kiro Web in the future. There is a lot of aspirations that I have with that name. In the next few minutes, we're going to look at those. We're going to talk about what the features and capabilities are today and how actually Ryan uses that on a day-to-day basis to achieve faster delivery for his software development that he does. With that, before we go into technical details, Ryan, I know you pretty well. Maybe not everybody does. Tell us a bit about yourself. How much do you want to share about you?
Yeah, hey everyone. So my name is Ryan Cormack. I'm a principal engineer based in the UK. I'm also an AWS Community Builder, so I spend quite a lot of my time thinking about how I can use things like Kiro to help me go quicker in the work that I do, the job that I work on, but also how I can share some of these learnings back with the AWS community and make sure that we're able to build some of this software better, quicker, faster together.
Yeah, that's how I know you as well, I think. And we have met in person multiple times. Now, what I don't know about you is what's your, let's call it, category in the community builders. What you're focused on?
Yes, I initially joined as an AWS Serverless Community Builder. I used to spend a lot of time thinking of things like Lambda, S3, EventBridge, SNS, stuff like that, which is really interesting. But I think as time goes on, a lot of how I run things is getting replaced with what prompts do I use to get some things to run. So I spend a lot more of my time now thinking about things like Kiro or Agent Core, and Strands actually is another big favorite of mine.
Cool. Yeah. So you're kind of moving into the DevTools category a bit. I don't know. I'm just saying because I'm DevTools and there's not enough of us speaking up widely, right? So pretty interesting to see also that shift. Does that match up with what you do in your day job as well, or not?
Yeah, my role in my day job, I think I spend a lot of my time working across a lot of product and data engineering teams rather than deep in a single one. But I think more recently, again, now that AI-assisted tools and things like Kiro help us focus. I don't know if focus is the right word because I focus on so many things at once now, but I can focus on getting a bit deeper into a couple of different topics that I find myself much more closer to quite a lot of code these days.
Okay, that sounds good. Are you on the pro Kubernetes tier or on the against Kubernetes? You said you started with serverless, but then you didn't really talk about it. So where are you on that camp?
I don't know if this is spicy. I remember I think Google like made Kubernetes right because they've got 1 billion customers. Unfortunately, I'm a long way short of 1 billion customers right now. So I tend to stick more closely to things I know like ECS, Fargate, and Lambda functions when I need them. So I'm
Cool.
not
Good to know. Good to know. Okay, then I think that's enough to know about what are you doing and how you kind of drive the conversation that we're going to have today. And you already mentioned we're going to talk about Kiro Web. And I think let's start looking at what the hell that is. And let's just talk a bit about how do you think that influences the way that you interact with building software in the future. Ryan, let's maybe directly start with that and then see where we land up.
Yeah, so I've been using Kiro for ages, long before I think it was even Kiro, and typically find myself gravitating towards the CLI, which is really, really great. I guess there's always the fear that I'm having a CLI doing things on my laptop. Is it going to accidentally run rm-rf? So I find myself running in containers and things like that to isolate everything, but it still requires me almost to be at my laptop, me to be doing things with it. So the Kiro Web agent has been a really, really nice way for me to find out a bit about how I can use it remotely and not necessarily have to be staring at a laptop screen the whole time as I use it. It does it a bit more autonomously.
Okay, and that's what Kiro Web is supposed to do as well, right? It moves you out of your computer, of your laptop, of whatever you're using, and gives you the possibility to run the same or different coding things on the web. Let's start sharing a screen and let's show like the listeners on what is Kiro Web, what is what you and I are talking about, and give them a little bit of a perspective on how you use it.
So I think I'm in here looking at one of my previous open source projects that I've got. So I've got a it's actually a Kiro tool to help me use Kiro in slightly different ways. But I just want to ask the autonomous agent if everything is all up to date. So it's going to start off by going away. It's going to clone my GitHub repo for me. It's then going to run some shell commands. So it's checking out just exactly what sort of files are in my current directory right now. And it's able to go off and then read everything.
So let's slow down for a second. So actually that means Kiro Web at the end gives you an interface, like a chat thing that you can use to then interact with your source code repositories that you have previously connected. I think that's what we see over here, right? So assuming that not everybody that is watching this has been getting access, I think this was just announced to be without whitelist in the recent days. That means now people can start trying it. In order to get to try it out, you need a Kiro subscription, I think. You need to be able to log into app.kiro.dev on the web, and then you get the possibility to connect your source code repositories, right?
Yeah, exactly. So I think the Kiro paid tiers now, very recently, everyone has now got access to be able to use this on the web, which is, I think, a pretty cool announcement. And when it came back out, when it was first announced back in September, I think it was behind just like a gate.
Yes, it was. Yeah.
Be allowed.
Okay, and that means now people can start using it. They will get access to Kiro Web with their subscription that they have already prepaid, or they can pay as part of the sign up over here. That gives them the possibility to then connect to GitHub, I think, at least. And that's what you have done over here as well. And the moment that you do that, you can now start to ask Kiro Web questions on the repositories that you have given this hit access to, right? And this is one of the first things that we did over here. Like we wanted to understand what the repository does, and then the tool started to work in the background, and that's just with you interacting with it through the browser, right? I think that's now I have everybody that didn't know what Kiro Web is on the same page to get started with what are we seeing here and what does it do. So let's go from there.
Yeah. So I guess like also think about like IDEs and how we interact with code. I don't necessarily need to see the code for me to be able to make changes to it now. Direct and steer Kiro Web exactly how I want to do it. Mm-hmm. So in this very small example, I just want to make sure that all of my steering documents are all up to date. So I said it's got off in cloned a repository. It's reading through all of my my documentation files to make sure that they're all up to date with everything. And Kiro Web has come back and said that everything is looking pretty good here, but we're maybe missing something in here. So my documentation is quite right. So you make sure it's up to there we go. So I'm going to go away and get it working on this in the background. But some of the other really cool features about Kiro Web is that it comes with two different functions. So right now we've got autonomous or not autonomous mode. So if people are familiar with Kiro on the IDE, it's got that concept of vibe and spec. I don't think Kiro Web's quite got specs yet, but hopefully it's something we'll see in the future. But the autonomous mode or not autonomous mode is a little bit similar to vibe mode or not. And I can turn on...
Before you go that, let me comment on the spec-based thing, right? So today specs are not supported by Kiro Web, but I can see that coming pretty much soon. The way that I have been using Kiro Web to work with specs is I use the Kiro IDE to create the specifications, and then I literally tell Kiro Web, okay, this is the location of the spec and this repository, can you implement it, right? And that's the way that you can already now use the specs on the web as well. But of course, you need to first prepare that specification on your local before you kind of get it up and running.
Yeah, actually, I think that's a really, really nice way of working. And I typically find myself doing really similar things that now that it's so quick and easy to write code with tools like Kiro, the code isn't the important bit anymore. It's all of that understanding up front and then letting it be a bit more free with the implementation of it. So I find myself using tools locally like Kiro IDE or CLI to build up exactly the same, right? The planning process, and then just let the web UI carry on doing things. And I don't have, because it might take a little bit longer, I don't have to be at my laptop doing it.
Yeah, I agree.
So we get access to all of the same wide range of models that we do with Kiro on the IDE and CLI. Mm-hmm. And I can turn on autonomous or not. So when I turn on the fully autonomous mode, it's a bit more like the Kiro Autonomous Agent that I think this has evolved out of over time. And it will just go away and do a whole lot more things without waiting or asking for my input. So when this is running, it's going to be running remotely on the cloud. Everything runs
Okay.
on the cloud. And it runs in its own isolated sandbox. So this means that your code is never going to be able to break out or escape out of this sandbox, and everything that it does, because it's doing it remotely on the cloud, it's only got access to the things that you give it access to. So in this case, this might be giving it access to some source code repositories that I've got,
Okay.
or it might be giving it access to things like MCP servers that I'm setting up in advance, or environment variables that I'm configuring. I think we can
How
configure
do I
those.
configure that? Can we have a look on that?
Yeah, we can configure those down here. So I've got things like my agent configuration. So you can see that it's connected to GitHub, as you mentioned.
Okay.
I currently haven't added any steering files, but you can add some steering files and you can upload them directly or import them from GitHub. And this will just help guide the agent when you're doing things
Okay.
with the idea of steering files. Over time, it will create some memories on how to do things that it's been doing repetitively more and more and more. And then we can give it access to Kiro Powers, which are a Kiro, I guess, almost extension of the idea of skills. So if people aren't familiar, a skill is almost a prescriptive set of guidelines on how an agent should do a task. And a Kiro Power takes that prescriptive guidance, but also adds things like MCP support. So your agent will get access to an MCP server, a set of instructions on how to use one or more MCP servers and some specific steering files. So, and again, mentioned before, I'm using strands for a lot of things these days. So I've got the strands power to help me.
Yeah. And we recently, in one of the last videos I did, we looked at Kiro Power that works in the IDE that Hector, I think, provided. Those would be the same powers over here, right? So if you go at Manage Powers here, I think you will see the same powers that you would have available on the Kiro IDE, if I recall correctly. Or most of the similar ones, right? Okay, cool. Yeah, that's good.
I think you can add your own custom ones.
Cool.
And then, set some environment variables and some secrets if we need to give our agent access to any secret things.
That means with environment variables and or secrets, I can actually give the agent the capability to delete and wipe my whole AWS account if I want to, right?
You can, yeah. As with everything, I definitely wouldn't recommend passing in, I guess, administrator access IAM credentials.
Have you tried that? So have you tried giving the agent the freedom to deploy something out to your AWS accounts or not yet?
I haven't yet, actually. It's something that I'm really looking at. I'm thinking of maybe setting up some IAM credentials that I can give it a role for read access. So I like that quick feedback loop of the agent being able to run some integration tests rather than
and the agent actually being able to triage log files as well, right? So think of like, I've been building a lot with Kiro myself and also a bit with Kiro Web. I have some SaaS applications that I'm running, but I often get to the position that there is something not working, right? Now, at the moment, IDE can somehow use my local AWS profile and now giving me the possibility to run incident management in the same way that the DevOps agent does that in Kiro Web, I think would be pretty interesting.
Yeah, I think so. Actually, it's a use case that I hadn't really considered, but I could definitely see it being, a powerful, useful one. So yeah, definitely something to me.
And that's where I think, I always question what AWS does as well, right? So the possibilities to kind of run agents for you in an online way could be integrated better, right? Now we have the security agent that has been announced. We have the DevOps agent. Now we have coding agents that are behind Kiro Web. It sounds a bit like 3 different possibilities to interact with that. Obviously, purpose-based agents, right? But an agent platform might be interesting in the future as well.
Yeah, for sure. It's like as these things get more and more powerful, right? Especially with the large language model nature of them, that the large language models are very good at doing a lot of different things, and the agent harness around it, I guess, is directed or specialized at specific tasks with specific sets of tools. But I do worry sometimes there's a lot of bouncing between the two, or some like blurry overlaps between them. And hopefully this gets tidied up in the future, particularly with things like agent-to-agent capabilities, that maybe the DevOps agent can then go and invoke my Kiro agent to do a bunch of things, and my Kiro agent can ask the DevOps agent, how's this deployment looking?
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, let's move on through the session that you already did, right? So we saw that we gave him something to do, and I think it has done that, right? So what did the agent do?
It has, yeah. So it's gone away and it looks like it's updated my steering docs for me. That's explicitly what I asked it to do here. So it's made sure that those are up to date, and it's created a GitHub branch for me, and it's pushed this branch to GitHub. So I'm going to see if I can find it here. I can't. Let me see if I can quickly open that up. There we go. So we can see here that it pushed this branch up for me. So I'm going to pull request. I think this is just going to be a pretty small one with.
Did it not create a pull request for you?
It doesn't. This is something that I think
it does that for me. So I'm using Kiro Web as well, and it does that for me. So usually the Kiro Web should now bring up a pull request as well, that gives you the direct one-click approval, right?
Yeah. I think it's supposed to. Maybe this is a bug we can feed back on. And also, I don't remember. Yeah, I'm not sure specifically why it hasn't done here. But the idea.
But there it says, let me push this and create a PR for you. It says over there. If you go back to the Kiro Web, and then it says GitHub Action failed. Can you click on that for a second?
I don't get any output from this one.
Well, then that's a bug to fix.
I think so. Yeah. I guess this is still in open preview. They've been iterating a lot, and there's certainly a couple of things that might need some polish in places, but we can still see that it's done everything that I wanted to do. It's properly updated the steering file for me, and I can go away and create this pull request if I want to. I'll be doing this and merging this in, I think.
Okay, so what did it create?
In this case, it's just created the documentation changes for me that I asked for. I started this conversation off with, can you make sure these are all up to date? And it will have gone through, made sure these are all up to date for me.
Very good. Okay, so, and that's also what it can do in general, right? So you can give it all kind of things to do, and it would work on your GitHub repositories. What's been your experience with using it? Like, is the code quality compared to what you get from CLI and IDE, or is it different? What's your perception on that?
I don't know if I've got a strong comparison. So I find myself sitting in the CLI more often than the IDE to do things, and have historically favored models like Opus 4.7. But more recently, I've been trying out the auto model selection and or GLM, like coding specific model selections. And I've been finding that it's been really, really good at doing things. And I think I've been finding that again in the same way as with the web agent now, that by default, I'm just tending to stick in auto mode for a lot of things and finding the results and the output really, really powerful. I think this maybe goes back to some of the things you mentioned earlier, that if you've got that strong plan and understanding defined up front, then its ability to implement that with code, I think, is much, much better than if I just came along and said, oh, build me an XYZ, make no mistakes, really good, go. The code may not be quite so good then, but I've got applications written in Swift that I've never written Swift before, for example, native desktop apps, and it's been building those fine. They're running fine. It's been really, really, really powerful to see it build things.
Okay, so that means the sessions that you have been running with Kiro Web, have they been longer, or are they always short-lived? What's your thought around that?
They've been pretty long, actually, and quite often they are maybe multi-hour, and that's not because I'm doing things hours at a time. It's maybe because I get my laptop or get Kiro Web to start something on my laptop. I'll maybe view it on my phone. The phone interface isn't quite super great yet, but I'm sure those improvements will be coming. But I can check in on my phone, drop a message to say, oh, do this instead, and then it will carry on doing things in the web. I mean, we can see this one here, that it's been delegating off to a whole bunch of different agents to go off and build this large application for me. And
so that means essentially Kiro Web serves as an agent orchestrator for you. It gives you one interface to interact with multiple agents in the background. You kind of don't have a lot of control of which agents run in the background, right? I think that's a positive and a negative thing, of course, right? The way that I look at it, it's been working pretty well for me, but sometimes some of the agents get stuck, and I think that's the nature of the preview, and I hope it gets a little bit smarter in the future. So how do you, you mentioned that at the beginning, but something that I find concerning when working with Kiro Web is that the code really becomes completely unimportant. Yes, I need to review the code on the pull request before I merge it, but you still don't get real access into what's being done and how it's how it's happening. I find the IDE to give me more possibilities to steer the agent in between. And I find Kiro Web sometimes to be reacting slowly on my steering somehow. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I agree, but maybe my approach is maybe becoming a little bit different now, that I find myself checking every single line of code that's getting changed, or not. That's not true. Not every single line of code, but large sections of code getting changed to be possibly less important than I maybe had done maybe a year ago or so.
Okay.
So I do check in what's going on, and one of the things I think would be really nice to see in Kiro Web is the ability to have almost like a diff view of the code that it has changed as it's been going through. So I see there's some space down the left and right that I'm not a UX person, but
okay, so you would like to get a view of a possibility to see the diff of the code that is being done, right? But you see that a little bit here. Obviously, you would like to see that in more details, right? So which step generated which portion of the code would be the interesting part, right? And then also see how that impacts the overall thing, right?
Yeah, and I got to go hunting, which is hard for me now too.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Did you somehow look at, is there any security verification scanning or something like that included in the code that is being generated? Did you see something like that already or not yet?
So not yet, but one of the things that you kind of see, we see it delegated to a bunch of different agents here, reviewer, coder, reviewer, because Kiro Web will follow the same steering rules and has access to the same agents that you've got defined in your repository. You could easily add a steering thing that after work, or a hook that when it's finished working, it will invoke maybe a security review agent that you've got defined in your repository or set up across Kiro Web automatically for you. And you can maybe give that access to a security-based tool that you've got. It will often do that. Equally, as part of my pipelines, I've got some security checks in my pipelines, and Kiro often it will look at and follow the code going through the pipeline. If there's comments on it, it can help action those and understand those.
Okay, that makes sense. Good. Okay, so what else do we have in the web that you want to show and talk about because you like it or you don't dislike it?
I guess one of the things that this is I haven't actually had that huge amount of time to play with it yet, because I think it's been part of this new preview that's only just been more widely released, that in GitHub you can start creating issues in GitHub and then automatically assigning those to the Kiro Web agent. And I can see myself very quickly starting to use GitHub to manage more of my workflow, create issues in GitHub, assign them to the agent, and then have that almost take a first draft at doing a piece of work, or a first draft at being able to fix the problem. And then I might end up taking it down into my IDE or CLI to work through and check to see what it's been doing, and maybe run the code if I need to, or have a bit more of an understanding for it. It's larger.
You just mentioned that you would like to then look at the stuff in the CLI. What's your expectation how that will interact?
I think when I think about the CLI, I find I've built my own tools on top of the Kiro CLI over ACP to help me understand a bit more about what's going on. So I think I might find myself doing that a little bit, just some way that helps me more comfortably review the code or inspect it, step through and see what's been going on in places.
Okay. So because like what I've been saying is that I would love to get the possibility to access the sessions that we see over here from CLI and also from the IDE, because it should be seamless. Like it should depend on where I'm currently at. Like AWS always says they meet people where they are, right? And that's what also everybody that tries to sell stuff is doing, right? And I would love to get that as well, right? So meet me as a developer where I am, whether I'm on my mobile, whether I'm on my iPad, whether I'm on my desktop or in the CLI or IDE, right? I would like to be able to steer the agent and agents wherever possible, right? Without any friction. And for me, and even after this updated UI, I still find myself being troubled in accessing the different features of Kiro Web on my mobile, and that's concerning to me, right?
Yeah, 100% agree. I think across the web, IDE, and CLI, it still feels disjointed with slightly different feature support across different things and things like that. I hope this is being worked on, because like that world that you mentioned there, that you start on one place and you continue in another, feels like such a natural way for me to want to use this product. Whereas right now I'm building my process around that. So yeah, hopefully I'm looking forward to the day when that becomes a reality.
Yeah, and
especially on mobile
yeah.
is such a place where I am now, that I can check in, I can steer, I can update, point in a direction, and just get it going.
Yeah, and to give people a perception of what I am talking about, or what we are talking about, is if you let me share my screen for a second, if I may. I'm trying to show some thing here, but I have too many tabs open, so I'm gonna try to do that here. So if you look at me using the dev tools, right, limiting that to an iPhone 14 Pro, you can see that the UI of Kiro Web becomes pretty limited. And that UI becoming pretty limited now gives me the problem that I can't access the menu or something like that, right? If I go and look at that on an iPad Pro, it looks a little bit better, because now I can get at least the view of the sessions again, right? But the limitation on a phone to actually, and I don't know how you work around that, the limitation on a phone to actually just see the chat was really hard for me to interact, right? So maybe Ryan, tell me a bit, how are you interacting with this on the web? On the mobile.
Force my phone into landscape mode, find the session that I want, flip it back into portrait mode, scroll a bunch, get the chat box, press enter, and send it off. It's definitely not as slick as it should be.
Yeah. And I don't know, I built that small web app, that small Flutter app to interact with Kiro Web. I don't know if it works after the update. I need to check that, right? But I think that's something that we can definitely improve. Okay, I think we've gone through most of the features that Kiro Web has today, at least based on what I have in my head. Ryan, where do you think Kiro Web should go in the future? What is what you really want to see in the next weeks or months?
Yeah, I'd like it to help work with how I think software development in general is moving. So I think we both mentioned that this planning phase up front becomes really, really powerful. And I build some projects with other people, and obviously I've got my work where we work collaboratively across teams of engineers and product designers and UX designers. And I like to see like collaborative coding or collaborative software development become powerful in Kiro. We spend a lot of time right now with designs in one place, the product requirements one place, this software and code in another place, and kind of wrapping that together. Okay. Maybe a sprint planning session becomes focused around Kiro, where there's a multitude of different disciplines all planning inside a modern IDE, which might be a web-based chat interface, on where we would go with things.
Mm-hmm. That sounds interesting and exciting, and I think the way that we build software is changing a lot, right? And at the moment, some of the tools that we have, like Lovable, are more product manager focused and stuff like that, right? Some of the tools like Kiro CLI and IDE are more focused on the developers. Kiro Web can build that bridge in the future, right? I don't know. We'll see. But I like that idea, fascinating, of a team collaborating on the specifications of the implementation, right? And we'll need to see how when how to say, processes take over these type of things of implementations, right? And when it becomes more of a burden, like for a defect, do I really want to have a team collaboration? No, I might not want to do that, right? But whatever we build needs to make to do changes simple, right? Another thing that I'm still like, well, I'm not sure if I'm missing that or not, right? If you think about this Kiro Web becoming an integrated software development landscape or whatever, right? Then you need pipelines or something like that, right? Or at least you need to be able to integrate with the pipelines that you have today. So if Kiro Web is supposed to become the command center of your development processes, I think then there is a bunch of features that would help it to become, more widely usable, I would say. At the moment, it's still code generation, the way that I look at it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. What else, Ryan? What else do you think people need to know about Kiro Web and about what we're doing with it?
I'm not sure why, but I've almost had a different mindset using it, that I can just get it to try something. It uses my Kiro subscription. I check what's going on and come back to it. That I think it's given me so much more almost freedom to try and build different things together. And I very much think of like using the CLI or the IDE as I've got to be involved to do it. But I'm much more willing to let the remote agent try a bunch of different things and processes, and off it goes. The agent harness seems really, really powerful. So yeah, I think if you haven't tried it yet, an idea of something to build, like just go open it and build it. It's crazy.
Yeah, but it requires you to have a subscription. That means you need to pay for it, right? So how have you been like seeing credits being used for you?
It's been much less. I don't know if this is because of the auto mode or the different model selections that it's using, but I've been, I don't know why, but more trusting of Kiro Web to make good model choices or use the auto mode. And I found it to be a lot less credit hungry than me using the CLI. That's probably because in the CLI, I'm trending towards Opus and Sonnet models quite a lot. But it's, I found it really, really easy to just let it, the consumption's not been huge.
Yeah, and I think for me, you get less controls about the credits being used is my concern that I see. I just told you a bit earlier I was running a spec session, right? And that spec session, I consumed 390 credits for someone that like is paying for those credits. It was pretty concerning, right? So I'm eager to see how when we delegate more work like to agents off from where we are today, how do we control the used credit and the costs? Maybe sometimes the agents also run in a different direction, right? And that agent in Kiro Web definitely did something that it maybe shouldn't have done, but it consumed like $29 in just a few hours, right? And I think that's where we are not prepared yet from an engineering perspective to be aware of the costs that we are creating with the code generation. Be aware of what the agents are doing on our behalves, right? And I think our industry is in a situation where we need to get better at that. We need to keep costs in mind. We need to think about how do we steer the agent in the right direction in order to reduce the number of tokens or credits being used to do some kind of task, right? And I'm worried about the simplicity of getting access to these type of solutions. Kiro Web is just one of them. There is others, right, where people tend to forget about that, and I think that's where, I'm trying to be mindful of that, that's my thoughts around this whole topic at the moment, right?
Yeah, it's a fair point. Maybe we need a stop switch or a maximum credits used for a spec. Maybe I'm lucky that I haven't got anywhere near that amount in a single session, but that would definitely be annoying, frustrating.
Yep. Okay, good. Ryan, if people want to talk to you about how to build agents, how to use agents, how to interact with them, and how to maybe get access to the tools that you build on top of the CLI for yourself, how can the people reach out to you?
I think LinkedIn's probably the best these days. I think it's where I spend most of my social media time. I'm just Ryan Cormack on LinkedIn if anyone wants to get in touch.
Cool. And open source, how can people help you there? You mentioned a few open source projects. Is there something you see where you are looking for active contributors or something like that?
Yeah, I'm on GitHub. I've got a couple of small Kiro Assistant type tools. If people want to use them, try them out. They're on my GitHub, on Homebrew, things like that. And yeah, contributions are always welcome, I guess.
Cool. And then last but not least, where's the next chance to see Ryan in person? Which conference are you attending next? Do you already know?
Oh, I don't. There's big ones in London towards the end of the year. The community summits are always pretty fun in the UK, so I'll hopefully be a couple of those. If not, there's plenty of meetups in and around London. If anyone's London based, I try to hang out in a lot of evening meetups, which are always good.
Cool. So people should now know how to reach out. Ryan, thank you so much for giving us your guidance, perception, and usage of Kiro Web, which was recently made available to the public. I don't think it's GA, it's still preview, but if you haven't tried it out and you have an active Kiro subscription, I would recommend you to at least give it a try, play around with it, and see how you can actually delegate your development work to agents that don't run on your own PC, but run somewhere else. So you get the free time to think about new ideas and new things you want to build. If you have any comments or questions, put them below in the show notes. If you liked the video, we would, of course, love to hear that from you. If you disliked something or if you're missing something, you want to hear more about a specific topic, also put that in the comments or reach out to Ryan or to myself, and we'll see what we can do for you. Ryan, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your day, and bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.